Welcome to EyE on You.
This episode, we are honored to have Maria Tan Wei Chu, a senior Hong Kong politician and lawyer. As a successful politician early on, Tan was a member of the 4 different levels of Representative Council, namely the Executive Council, the Legislative Council, the Urban Council, and the Central and Western District Board in colonial Hong Kong in the 1980s. Not only that, she was also a member of the Basic Law Drafting Committee before the handover. Maria played an important role in the drafting work of the Basic Law, which protects our rights and interests today.
The establishment of the Drafting Committee of the Hong Kong Basic Law was approved by the 11th section of the 6th MPCSC and was responsible for the drafting of the Basic Law, including members from not only mainland China, but also Hong Kong. The Basic Law enshrines national sovereignty and to protect the rights and interests for Hong Kong people, fully realizing the spirit of one country, 2 systems. After the handover, Ms. Tam was appointed as the Deputy Director of the Committee for the Basic Law of Hong Kong, responsible for advising the MPCSC on Articles 17, 18, 158, and 159 of the Basic Law. She is definitely a very authoritative expert on the issue for the local community. Today, we are very happy to have her today to talk about some issues of concern in the local political context and Hong Kong's future legislative work. Let's welcome Ms. Tam. Hello, Ms. Tam.
Hello, Eunice.
Welcome
Edward.
to our show. Welcome to our show.
Thank you for letting me to be here.
So, since the implementation of the national security law for Hong Kong, the society has generally regained stability, and the flames of the opposition party has been greatly suppressed. And there are some arguments that there is no longer urgency to enact local legislation for the Article 23 of the Basic Law. Do you agree with this viewpoint?
The answer should be as soon as possible for Hong Kong to enact Article 23 laws. There are 4 reasons. The first reason is because the NSL only covers 4 areas, and that is secession, subversion, terrorist activities and collusions with foreign powers or external forces. So what happened is that for the requirement under Article 23, there are 7 types of offenses, which includes, for example, local political organizations having a relationship with foreign political organizations, safeguarding state secrets, and treason. Those laws that we have in Hong Kong has to revamp to fit into our new system of, Hong Kong SAR. For example, treason. If you look at the law, a lot of it refers to Her Majesty, which is absolutely irrelevant now. And then if you look at local political organization having liaison with foreign political organization, the situation has changed that, the definition of a political organization, do we need to have a second look at it? And also the society's ordinance is very old. And lots of loopholes in it. So these loopholes would have to be plugged. So the second reason is that if you have local laws to cover all 7 areas, a part of it overlaps with the NSL, so we use the NSL. If you cover all the areas, you can nip unrest and conspiracies in the bud without using the national security law. And the third reason is that I think these local laws would probably be under Hong Kong jurisdiction. You may not have the need to sort of transfer the venue of the trial elsewhere. And fourthly, it is a constitutional responsibility which we should have fulfilled 23 and a half years ago. We hadn't done it. So I think as soon as we can.
So according to what you said, that we have to have the local legislation for further to plug the loopholes for the national security. In the point of view, how do the public consultation be done properly as to formulate appropriate publicity and explanation strategy, as well as communicate more with the members of the public?
The normal procedure in LegCo for public consultation and public education is very important. I hope that after the NSL, more people in Hong Kong are aware of the dangers and the disadvantages. If you do not have national security laws or laws that will keep law and order in Hong Kong and not expose ourselves to, for example, foreign interference or local illegal acts. So what happened is that if we want Hong Kong to develop in a peaceful and orderly way, it would be important to get the message to the Hong Kong public that this is actually to our advantage to have all these laws. And I'm sure the government and LegCo are very experienced in the enactment of controversial or sensitive legislations in Hong Kong.
So under the improved electoral system, 23 out of 36 election committee subsectors have applicants exactly matched the seats available. So they are expected to be elected and contested. And the remaining 13 subsectors are expected to have competition. And there are views that after the improvements of the electoral system, there will no longer be vigorous competition within the election committee election. So how would you comment on this?
Well, I think we're not going for numbers. I think the electoral reform, the main theme is to achieve the aim, which is actually at the start of the Hong Kong SAR's being. And that is when Mr. Tang Xiuping saw us basic law drafters in 1987. He already said that it's important to have patriots as a mainstay in the administration and governance of Hong Kong. And a patriot, the definition is very simple. Anybody who respects his ethnic origin, who wholeheartedly support mainland, the central government's China's sovereignty over Hong Kong, and who would not do anything to damage the interests of Hong Kong. That is a patriot. So the reform we are doing now is to make sure that those who are in public office, and especially in government and in LegCo, and here we're talking about LegCo, are patriots. At least they would not get themselves to involve in any acts that will damage the interests of Hong Kong. And they are prepared to swear allegiance and truthfully keep to their oath to the Hong Kong SAR. So as to the number of votes or number of contestants or the occasions when you have to compete for a seat is secondary. First thing is through the vetting of the qualification of the candidates, the electoral college must itself be composed by patriots. All those who are automatically elected because the number of candidates matches the seats probably means that they are probably the best people in their own field or in their own organization. So an election would become unnecessary. So don't underestimate the sort of representative capacity and the ability of those who are sort of automatically elected.
So with the vetting procedures for the elections and also the principle of patriots administrating Hong Kong, how do you think the space for Pandem to join the upcoming elections, and will the moderate parties be emerged into the political arena as the loyal oppositions in this sense?
Actually, it's not difficult to be a patriot because I've already given the definition. I'm going to take a taxi after this program. The taxi driver is a patriot, as long as he does not do any damage to Hong Kong and accept China's sovereignty over Hong Kong. That's it. So lots of people, I should think most people in Hong Kong will be qualified under the definition of patriots. Whether they would be elected all depends on their track record, their reputation, I don't quite know the meaning, the definition of a loyal opposition. I'm sure it doesn't mean that whatever you say I oppose. That's not the idea, right? Loyal probably means that in spite of the fact that we have different opinion when it comes to being truthful to your oath of office, you will keep to it. And that is, allegiance and upholding the basic law. I don't think you need a particular label on a person to say he's a loyal opposition. I think anybody who has good ideas and constructive criticisms of government policies should come out and speak on it.
Right. So ever since the handover, there are criticisms saying that the local Hong Kongers have very few knowledge on the basic law. As the Deputy Director of the Basic Law Committee, how do you think the government can strengthen the relevant work in the future?
Well, I think we missed the opportunity. Actually, once Hong Kong became the SAR, we should have started basic law education in all our schools, in our public servants training, media, and various organization grassroots activities to promote the basic law. But I don't think it was really done enough. Anyway, we have to make up for lost time. And if you ask me, there are 6 steps. First thing is through education. This is very important. Secondly, if it's going to be done through education, you have to make sure the teachers and the principals, school principals, understand the basic law and how it functions. And thirdly, civil service. As far as I know, they're stepping up with the training. I took part in the training now. Sadly, I think before Mr. C.Y. Leung was the chief executive, a lot of the training is done by somebody called Benny Tai. Anyway, we changed the trainer, the instructors now. And fourthly, I think in the civil service, they are going to have curriculums and a structured course for the training of the basic law, and possibly in examinations reflecting the importance of the knowledge of the basic law. And then fifthly, I think whenever there is a case decided which is relevant to any article in the basic law or concepts in it, I think the judgment should be analyzed and debated or explained to the general public, because that is where the articles become alive. And sixthly, finally, there should be outside of the school. Outside of that, there should be voluntary organizations who are prepared to think of interesting activities outside of the curriculum to make students interested in how the basic law is being implemented or how it's working in terms of framing up the SAR's lifestyles and systems, such as school competitions.
Speaking of the civil servants, and they are all required to take the oath before they're taking up their jobs in order to uphold the basic law and bear the allegiance to the Hong Kong SAR. So how do you think it is an effective tool to safeguard the core values of one country, 2 systems and the principle of patriots administering Hong Kong?
I think anybody in public office, which includes civil servants and legislators, knows that when you swear allegiance and uphold the basic law, it's a serious and solemn promise, like in a marriage. It's something you cannot flout, and it's something you cannot cheat. Once you make that oath, you have to be truthful to it. So what happened is that keeping to the oath and making sure that you don't betray it, that's the cardinal rule of anybody who wants to be in public office. If you're not prepared to do that, just don't join. You'll be happier doing other things. I think we need a unity of purpose in a government. and both the government and the legislature, so that you're aiming at the same thing, you're doing something which is for the good of Hong Kong and for your own country, and that you will not damage its interests, and you make sure that whatever resources you have in your hand is there to make Hong Kong people's life better. And I think that is the main purpose, I think, for anybody who wants to be in public office.
Mm-hmm. So as the honorary advisor of the Joint Committee for the Promotion of Basic Law for Hong Kong, how can these non-governmental organizations promote the basic law among the Hong Kong people, especially among the youngsters? And how can these non-governmental organizations fill the gap left by the Hong Kong government?
Yeah, I was talking about extracurriculum activities.
Right.
I think these voluntary organizations or NGOs will be the best agent to conduct those activities. First of all, more flexible. And secondly, they can decide on the, for example, the subject of the debate or the question to be asked in a competition. Because once you teach basic law, it would be very dangerous and very boring if you just go article by article. You have to make it a story, something that you can listen to, you're interested, oh, I see. And that is something I think the NGOs can have more freedom. They have more freedom, but they don't have enough resources. So the best thing is for Hong Kong government to support these NGOs with a good track record and make sure those extracurriculum activities could be sort of more common and more frequently held.
So compared to the basic law, the NSL has only been promulgated for over a year. So it's relatively a very new law. So when I'm talking to some of the teachers, they are worrying that some of the content online is misleading and they are not impartial. So how should the government, what should the government do to make sure the teaching contents are accurate and impartial?
I think, first of all, as far as the teaching material, the text is concerned, it was being written by a very friendly professor, whom you know very well. I can't say his name, but he's from Beijing. So the text is already there. And secondly, there's already a framework out by the Education Bureau, Education Department. So what happened is that when you teach the NSL, you start from, as far as the framework is concerned, you start from different subjects. You would put some of it in geography, some of it in history, some of it in, for example, environmental protection. And then you realize that you need security in your environment, in your energy, and in other areas such as territorial integrity. And all this is going to be relevant to an orderly society and a country with the degree of stability to develop. So instead of just going in and teach the NSL clause by clause, first of all, you make the student understand that security is not just the NSL, but an environment wherein a society can thrive. My own personal approach when I go and talk to the teachers, I would start from history. I would start from the Opium War, the 8 Nations invasion of China, and then the Japanese War. And we start from when your country has no national security, what is the price you pay? And I list out all the laws. And then the second thing is that when your country is secure and developing, what do you see? You see the second largest economy in the world. You see that over 60 million people lifted out of poverty and many other things, good things you see, which China has achieved in the last 40, 50 years. Then you compare the two. When you have national security, good things will happen and you will thrive. The second thing I think we should teach is the rule of law. Our students must know the school rules that you have to keep. And unless you can do that, you're not able to get proper education in the school. So there are national security laws you have to keep. Unless we can do that, we are not going to have a stable society, and you will not be able to pursue your aim in life. Then after the importance of the rule of law and the respect for the others' rights and freedom, then we'll talk about the NSL. And that's where the environmental and energy and other aspects all comes in. That you need all this to make sure that your society can develop. And then you come to the actual NSL itself. And then I tell them what the framework is and what the practice is. And that's how you do it. That's how I do it.
Thank you so much for your time, and your
Thank
sharing
you,
has
Edward.
been very, very inspiring.
Oh, no.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eunice.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for
Thank you.
asking me.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.